Pleased with the work ethic of our football team and our coaches to go on the road win. Obviously, we used 2 years ago as a motivation, and we were not going to let that happen to us again. On offense, 0 turnovers, 36 points, 15 explosive plays. On defense, 3 turnovers, which I thought was the difference in the game. We held them to 2.8 yards per rush. These guys wanted to be a running football team, especially with their quarterback. And Colin Hill was the second leading rusher in the SEC. I think we held them to under 50 yards. A great job by defense. 75% win on the third down. And on special teams, our punting average was almost 47 yards. Just flipped the field. We did a phenomenal job. Now on to Auburn, as we know, a big football game for Louisiana State University in the state of Louisiana. And I know the Tiger Stadium is going to be on fire at 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to need them as a winning edge, just like we did against Florida, just like we did against Georgia. And I know our fans are going to show up early and be ready to go. We're counting on them. A little bit about Auburn. First of all, they're a very good football team. They're very well coached. We know a lot about them. They know a lot about us. These last couple of games have come down to the last play. It's going to be a war. It's going to be a great game. A lot of those guys that we recruited, a lot of our recruits they recruited, we know all their coaches, be a typical great SEC matchup on Saturday afternoon. Offensive spread led by Gus Malzahn, a very good play caller, very good coach. 7 returning starters, 36 points a game. The big thing is they're averaging 240 yards per game rushing. This is the best offensive line that we're going to play so far this year. 5 returning starters. They're experienced. They're very well coached. They're tough and they're physical. On offense, Bo Nix is their quarterback. We all know Cam Martin, the running back. Wide receivers are very good. Seth Williams, an excellent player. On defense, the best defensive line we have seen so far, led by Derek Brown. I remember going to recruit Derek Brown, and he stood up in the doorway and he filled up the whole doorway. And that's the type of player he is, a mountain of a man. I'm glad he stayed. Really is good for college football. And he's probably going to be a top 5 pick. I recruited him. I wish that man the best of luck. Obviously not this Saturday, but I'm just good to see him playing very well. Coach Steele is a close friend. I'm glad to see Coach Steele, his defense doing very well. Very happy for the job that he's doing. Marlon Davis is another guy we tried to recruit. Has 6 sacks this year, 18 quarterback. Hurry is very disruptive. Jeremiah Denson, strong safety. Number 20, leads the team in tackles. Kevin's a 4-3 guy. He's given only 17 points per game. 94 yards rushing, 225 passing. Doesn't have to blitz much because of the rush he gets from his 4-man rush. On special teams, they're solid with a lot of speed. We're looking forward to this week of preparation. We'll go through the process. Today's Tell the Truth Monday. There's a lot of things that we need to correct from the Mississippi State game on all 3 phases. I do believe our team is going to be hungry this week. They know the magnitude of this football game, but they'll be ready to play. Any questions?
Ed, you mentioned the defensive line is best y'all seen yet. I mean, Florida was that. What ways does Auburn do things differently that make it difficult to block their front?
You look at a guy like Derek Brown, who's that big and physical. Nobody that we face so far has been that big and physical, and he's very, very disruptive. They put him in a 4 technique. They put him in a 3 technique. He's hard to match one-on-one. You have to double team him, but Marlon Davison's a good pass rusher. These guys get most of their rushers with a 4-man rush. They can stop the run and play 2 high safety. They're very physical.
Hey, Coach. Sadiq will play this week.
Yes.
And how's Deculus doing? And
Dexter's doing okay. He had a minor injury. We might be held out practice today or tomorrow, but he should be fine.
And I just want to ask you, you challenged those guys in the preseason to be more consistent this year. Is that the challenge again this week, that they'll have to play their best?
No question. Last year I thought they played pretty good against this group, and we have to do it again. And just like we challenged them against Florida, it's going to be led by Lloyd Cushenberry. We're going to have to play great on the offensive line this week.
Yeah, Ed, talking about the offensive line, how far along is Ed Ingram as far as in shape to get in a lot more snaps? Is he almost to the point where he's going to play a lot?
Yeah, Ed is, I think he's in good football shape right now. His technique right now, he's a little over-aggressive, and he wants to maul everybody, which is good. He's a good run blocker. We have to work a little bit on his pass protection. As soon as he gets that down, he'll play more.
Hey Ed, you've had a kicker that's kind of looked a little shaky the last few weeks, missing some kicks. Do you kind of do anything to help him with his confidence, or do you think he's lost any confidence in himself?
No, I don't think so. And again, we some people have a different philosophy about treating kickers. Don't tell them nothing. That ain't me. He's going to be accountable in our program, and he's going to have to answer what's wrong with us. It's all going to be about technique. Was his footwork? Was his timing right or wrong? What was it? He's going to have to explain. He's going to have to get better at it, just like everybody else. We say it's ongoing skill development. I don't think it's mental at all. I think it's definitely about technique.
Ed, right down here. Clyde has really impressed the last couple of weeks. We saw the speed against Florida, some of his shake each week.
Yeah.
How much better is he, maybe than you expected, and how pleased are you with his game?
Yeah, Clyde's a program saver. I mean, we needed him to come in and be a big-time back for us. He wasn't a highly recruited kid, although we thought that he'd be an excellent back. The best thing about Clyde is his attitude, and he carries himself, like I said many times, when Clyde walks in the room, he's 6'4", 270, and that's his persona. He's a great leader. He can make you miss. He can run in between the tackles. He's perfect for offense. And, I didn't mention this, but I thought Tyron Davis ran the ball very, very well against Mississippi State. Him and John would be two excellent backs for us.
Coach, there's a lot of talk of Auburn up the middle defensively, and we talked a lot about the tackles, I feel like, this season, but what about some of those interior guys? You hit on Ingram, but what about those two other guards, and how do you feel about their current level of play?
Yeah, D'Lo was playing very well. D'Lo was physical. D'Lo was hard to overpower. He's getting up to the second level and doing a fine job. The guy that's surprised the year to me is Adrian McGee. I thought that Ed Ingram would come. I said it the first week. I thought Ed was going to start, but Adrian has hold on, his experience. He's playing well there. Are they playing great? No, they're not playing great. But you know what? I thought the line is the most improved group. They did good against Florida, but they're going to test it this. They're going to get tested this week, and more up the middle, as you alluded to. They're going to get tested.
Hey, Coach, what's the plan with Terrace Marshall this week in practice, and do you expect him to maybe play this week?
Terrace Marshall?
Yeah.
Yeah, we plan on easing him along, see how much he can do. Jack Marucci and Coach Brady have an excellent plan. We talked about it today. He's gonna want to do everything and be ready to go. But we feel that by game time he should be ready to play.
Coach, up here, another big game in Tiger Stadium. How does that affect recruiting for you this weekend?
We have 5 official visitors this week. Some big-time players are coming in. We'll have our best recruits from Louisiana, from Houston, from Mississippi, from Atlanta, from Florida will be at this football game, just like it was the Florida game. They got to see Tiger Stadium at night. Now they get to see it during the day. This is a huge recruiting weekend for us. As we know, the early signing day is coming up. There'll be a lot of official visits coming in the next couple of weeks, and we got to make some decisions. We got a couple of scholarships left.
Coach, Auburn hasn't won here since 1999, which is before a lot of your players were born. I know you've only been here for the last 2 times that played in Tiger Stadium.
Yeah.
What in a series that's so competitive as this, what can you attribute that to?
Yeah, well, obviously the home field advantage, I think, is huge, no question. Now, we won there last year, so we must have bucked the trend a little bit. And although they haven't won here, I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me that, Ted. But I don't think it means a hill of beans come Saturday. And I know they're not listening to it. My team better not listen to it, because this is a good football team. It'll be a big matchup. And but I do believe that the home field advantage is something for LSU. It's always been for LSU, and it's been phenomenal.
Yeah, Ed, Auburn lost their lead rusher for the year a couple of weeks ago. Can you tell him what you see in their rushing attack last week, and what do you see in Bo Nix, another freshman quarterback you have to face?
Yeah, first of all, we recruited Bo. That is a great player there. He's a great character. I think he's going to be an outstanding quarterback. Obviously, he made some mistakes against Florida under some pressure. Their running backs are good running backs at Auburn, or they great running backs at Auburn. The one that got hurt could have been a great running back. These guys are good running backs. They're not as productive as the other running backs that they had. I think the thing that makes their running game, though, is their coach, his schemes, his formations. He knows where to hit you, and their offensive line. This is a better offensive line than we played last year.
Coach, when he was healthy, Terrace Marshall was a big asset in the red zone. After this weekend and the struggles that you guys had, does it make you kind of rethink the strategy when you get in that area?
Sure. And I just talked to Coach Ensming and Joe before I left there. And there's some things that we felt that we could have done better. There's some play calling that we felt we could have done better. We feel that with Terrence in there, it's hard to double Jamar or Justin. And obviously, Terrence gives us a big threat in the red zone, and Joe feels comfortable with it. So he's a great addition. I think having him back and making some adjustments of the play calling and the formation is going to help us.
And in what ways does this new offense and the way the wide receivers are given a lot of, ability to do things, does that help against this defense since they don't have to rush as many? I mean, it seems like they have more back there to protect against your talented receivers.
Yeah. You talking about our offense versus their defense? Well, here's what's going to happen. If we're going to run our offense, okay, we're going to have to five-man protect. That's our offense. We're going to go empty and five-man protect. That means someone's one-on-one with Derek Brown is going to have to win. Now, if we can do that, we're happy. But if we can't, we're going to have to make adjustments, keep a tight end in, keep a back end, chip, or whatever it may take. But we want to get five receivers out all the time, and that gives Joe obviously a better option, gives us a better option. When you spread guys out, they have to declare their man of zone. It's hard to disguise, and it gives us a better look over. So it all starts with protection. If we can beat those guys one-on-one, we'll be fine.
Hey, Ed, right here in the middle. You saw Wisconsin last week. They're supposed to play. They're playing Ohio State this week. Last week they overlooked Illinois and got beat.
Yeah.
Is it almost a positive that obviously you have a huge game coming up in 3 weeks, but that Auburn's a top 10 team? They're not some team that's under 500. Is it almost better for your players that you're going to have their full focus because there's obviously some massive games coming up in the next few weeks?
Yeah, and some of the stuff that you're saying is right for most teams, but I think for this team, they're so focused in on the task at hand, and they understood. They made some goals, and we talked about some things before the season where we want to go, and we're right on track. And this is always about LSU. It's about the LSU standard of performance. Now, does Auburn have our attention? Heck yeah. Is this a great rivalry game in the SEC? Yes. So whatever's down the road is going to wait down the road. But this, Florida was a big game, right? Well, Mississippi State was a big game. And the more you win, the bigger they're going to get. So this is a big game in Baton Rouge. That means a lot to our football team. And I don't think at all that they'll be looking past the open date, whatever, down the road.
Coach, Tyron Davis-Price looks like he's giving you some power in the running game, a guy that opposing guys don't want to tackle almost. Yeah. Where's your confidence level with him as opposed to the beginning of the year to give him more carries?
Very high. Very high. He's learning the offense. He's getting in his groove. He has some confidence. The last two touches he made, that touch against Florida and that touch he made against Mississippi State, were very impressive. And the thing I like about him is one cut and he's north and south. And he can break tackles. He's barreling down and he's going to fall forward. He reminds us a lot of maybe a Jeremy Hill type back that we used to have here. Maybe as good, maybe better. We don't know yet. But I think he's going to have a great career here.
The first half of the season, nobody really wanted to throw at Christian Fulton. Then Saturday, no one threw at Derek Stingley. I mean, how have you seen teams kind of go about facing those two corners?
Well, I think Christian had his best game. Obviously had his best game. He had that pick. It was a new coverage that we ran. And then he had a nice breakout on the hitch. He had a couple of good tackles. It's going to be hard. It's going to be, the guy's going to have some good receivers. There's no such thing as a total shutdown corner. I think Derek learned that. Guys are going to pick on Derek. Guys are going to pick on Christian. They're going to have great games. They have sometimes not so great games. But I like both of our corners. I think most of the time they're going to win their one-on-one matchups, and that's what enables us to go man-free most of the time. These guys got to win their one-on-one.
It took Jacoby Stevens a couple of years to really find his role in the defense, but now that he's starting at safety, I mean, how much patience has he shown you during his career, kind of waiting for his time, and how well do you think he's playing now?
Well, Jacoby was a five-star coming out of high school, one of the top players in Tennessee, one of the top players in America. His family was from Louisiana. We really wanted him, and we felt that he'd become an excellent player. The first year, we just tried to figure out where we can put him, where he can play the best. He got better. He developed. The closer he is to the ball, the better he is. Now, he's great in coverage. You saw the interception. but he, pound for pound, he is the strongest player on our football team. And he plays the way the game ought to play. When you walk off the field, Jacoby's the finest gentleman you'd ever see. When he puts that helmet on, he's very, very competitive and ferocious. So I think he's becoming an excellent football player.
You mentioned Gus's scheme. I think when they're at their best is when they're moving with tempo and they can control the pace. How much do you have to prepare your team for? Because they're kind of a start-stop with that. They don't throw it at you all game, but then they hit you with it.
Yeah, we're going to be ready for it. We're going to be ready for all types of tempos. But, you know, when he makes the first down, it's very fast, about as fast as we've seen. Now, we've seen some fast teams. So we're able to be able to match those guys. We finally have a defensive line that we feel like we can rotate. We have a run game that if we need to keep the ball away from them and run the football, hopefully we can run the ball and slow down the clock a little bit. So we have several mechanisms that we've done all year. We just have to get in the game and see how it's going. If our offense can score fast, you got to let them score fast. But if we need to control the ball, we need to control the football.
Goes back on your kicker. He is a freshman who hasn't had to be in a pressure situation yet this year. Do you maybe make practice a little bit more competitive this week? Maybe you look at Connor Cup a little bit, or do you trust? You tell the guy you're my guy.
I'm still going to trust him that he's our guy, but we're going to have a plan that you know, if he's not doing well, we may go for it. We give us you know, put the ball in his hands or Joe Burrow's hand. You know what I mean? I know what decision you'd make right now. You know what I'm saying? So. We have options. We can go for it instead of kick a field goal, which sometimes is better. Connor Cup is not ready to be our kicker yet. We believe in Cade, so I'm going to stick by him.
Ed, this tightrope procedure on high ankle sprains in the news right now. Y'all had that with Glenn Logan earlier this year.
Yeah.
How did you think that went? How do you make a decision to go with that procedure or to let that injury heal, which obviously takes a longer time?
First of all, Jack made a great decision, obviously. And we talked to his mom, and it's a high ankle sprain. And we felt that with the tightrope procedure, he could come back in, I guess it was 4 weeks. 4 weeks. And that's what Jack thought, that he'd come back in 4 weeks. And again, he came back in 4 weeks. Maybe a high ankle sprain would go 4 to 6 weeks. And so we felt that it was the best for him, and it worked for Glenn.
Coach, over here, a couple of things. Joe, last year in the Auburn game, you were down 8 points in the fourth quarter, and he hit that big pass, and then he took you on the drive. Do you think that's the game where the guys really, totally bought into what he was doing, one? And two, I don't want you to think I'm nuts when I ask you this question, but are you surprised about all the attention him getting his pants pulled down that the game has gotten?
Well, first of all, that was a good play. I believe Derek Dillon went 71 yards, and Auburn had a little momentum at that time. So I think the kicker got most of the credit for that game. I think the game that obviously we started believing in Joe, but the game that Joe won the team over was the Georgia game. No question, that was his team, and I thought he felt more comfortable, and you could see him playing better. As far as the other thing, I think it's a good thing in college sports. Guys have fun. They make fun of me. I'm glad my pants didn't fall down. But you know, it's college sports, it's the SEC. You know, there's no private moments anymore. You know, that stuff happened. Obviously, it was an accident, and I'm sure Joe would like to forget it, and so would we.
Coach, 16 of the last 19 meetings between LSU and Auburn have gone to the home team. Just anything in your mind that sticks out on why the home team has had success in this matchup?
Yeah, home team advantage. I expect it to happen again. It's a winning edge. And the crowds are great. This is a big rivalry game between Auburn and LSU. Our fans love it. They'll have a good show. And plus, man, the athletes that they put on this field, there'll be a lot of NFL draft choices on both sides of this football. So it's a great matchup. The home field advantage, I think the crowds get fired up for it, and maybe that's the reason.
Ed, what has Thad Moss brought to this offense, both as a blocker and in recent weeks as a receiver?
Yeah. First of all, Thad Moss has brought tremendous leadership to our football team. He's a young man that transferred here, didn't know anybody. I think he's made some of the most mature decisions that I've ever seen in a football player. I'm very proud of him. That's why I named him team captain. He struggled a lot. He had a lot of injuries, but he stuck with it. Now he gives us a blocking tight end and a pass catching tight end. He's very athletic. He's very smart. We can do some things with him. As you saw him, we chipped him on the way out. Steve ran the play twice in a row. Those guys didn't understand how to cover it. Obviously, he has some good genes. He has a lot of pressure on him. He's a great young man. So the more we can throw to the tight end, the more it's going to open up for our wide receivers. And I think the tight end down the middle puts a lot of pressure on the defense of covering the tight end down the middle, especially when you have some receivers on the outside.
Coach, I know you said earlier in the season that the rankings don't matter until the college football playoff ones come out, and we're about 2 weeks or so out from that. So just what is your current record against a schedule that's going to have already 3 top 10 teams say about LSU being one of the top teams in the country?
Yeah, we're going to let that speak for itself. We got Auburn ahead of us. They're in our sights. That stuff's out of our control. But what we can control is what we do today and how we practice and how we improve today. There's a lot of things we have to improve from the game of Mississippi State. Our guys respect Auburn. Our coaches respect Auburn. There's extra work being done in the office. There's an extra tempo the whole week. This is going to be a great battle between some coaches. And there's a lot of great assistant coaches on their staff, a lot of great assistant coaches on our staff. So there's a lot of stuff going into this game that we didn't even think about that other stuff.
And on that, I mean, I'm sure all the games feel like big ones, but for you, this will be your 11th at LSU top 10 game that you've coached in.
Yeah.
What do you lean on in your experience, those that advise you, those, I don't know, just to prepare for these as a coach, as a manager of players?
I don't prepare any different, to be honest with you. Top 10, no 10, whatever. It's a football game at LSU. You got to win. So I go through the whole week just like our guys. We go through the process. I don't change whether the record's great, whether the record's bad. We focus on our task at hand, and we go after it.
Coach, over here, the penalty on Stevens after the incomplete pass.
Say again now?
The penalty on Stevens down
Yeah.
there inside the 10-yard
Yeah,
line.
yeah.
Are you concerned about, because some of those things are kind of
Yeah.
marginal and they might decide a game at
Yeah.
some point? Thankfully, that one didn't.
Yeah.
And how do you coach a guy to, handle that situation?
Yeah. Well, we want to be aggressive. We want to play tight coverage, just like roughing the passer. You want to rush the passer, and there's some times where you can't pull off, and those are penalties of aggression. Derek check for today. We're the least penalized team in the SEC right now. So I'm not going to get on guys for aggressive penalties of aggression. Now, pre-snap penalties and stuff like that and stupid penalties we don't want, but hey, we got to let them play.
Coach, the new overtime rules came into play the other night with North Carolina and Virginia Tech. I don't know how much you paid attention to it, but were you in favor of the way they changed that, and just any other thoughts you might have about it?
Yeah. Well, I'm in favor. I think it's better than it was. Obviously, what we went through it last year, we shouldn't have did that to those kids. I mean, we played an extra game. So I'm in favor of it shortening it up for sure. I know what the new overtime rules have forced us to do. Like today, we have 2-point play period, and you got to have more 2-point plays for sure, and got to know how to defend them. Thank you, guys.